So we'd draw a 5 mile circle around a 57 millimeter gun position. We had, of course, a series of these going up the route we wanted to fly, and we would fly up within a couple of miles of one of those circles and make a turn and go around it, kind of weave our way around through that, just like an obstacle course.
Can you hold that thought for a second?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we're talking about working your way through the obstacle course of the
the
radar gun emplacements.
Yeah, the 57 millimeter gun, radar controlled gun emplacements. So we did a quite extensive flight up through there. We'd go up it, and then a couple of nights later we'd come down part of the trail. And
What altitudes were you flying?
about 2,000 feet above the ground, even within small arms range, much less, radar control, 57, 37 millimeter guns, whatever. So we did that,
Twin Otter?
3 or 4 nights a week for a long time.
What aircraft?
Twin Otters.
Tell me about the Twin Otter and how'd you like that airplane?
Well, that's a lot of fun too. We had this 300 series with the Dash 27 engines and do a lot of stow work, lots and lots of airdrops with it. Lots of hauling little brown people around, feeding them and hauling them and dropping to the guys who were actually under attack. Actually engaged with the enemy in close quarters, we'd drop to them.
Tell me about that a little bit. Like on top of ridge lines and things? Or
Yeah, up on hilltops usually.
what was typically while they were actually, like at nighttime while they were fighting, you're actually resupplying?
A lot in the daytime while they're actually fighting. We could just a regular everyday thing. You might make 15, 16 drops a day or whatever. It's amazing how fast we could load the airplane because we have what we call a loading shed at different sites, and they'd have pallets already made up and designated for certain positions or drop zones or site, whatever, they would call in their requirements. They'd make the load up, and we had roller tracks in the airplane that turned out the side door on the left. They had these big clamshell doors that weren't even on the airplane. So we'd pull into the, like Site 272, and they'd have the load sitting there. They'd have 3 forklifts with extended forks. They'd have 2 pallets on each forklift. And they'd just pull up to the door, and the 2 guys in the back, the kickers, would pull the loads in. They'd already have their blocks in the front of the tracks to keep from going too far forward. They'd have their straps laid out. They'd push those 6 pallets in there, and they'd tie them down while we taxied out. And we didn't have to go very far to the war to drop, so it was just a very few minutes. Turn around and come back and do it again. But the bad part about it, most of our places we were dropping were so small we could only drop 1 pallet at a time. 1 pallet a pass around. So that's 6 passes for each mission. You go back and load up and do it again. Every time you come around, sometimes they shoot at you. Not every day, but sometimes for days on end. Every time you come around that pattern, they're shooting at you. So that made it interesting. You couldn't always make the kind of approach that you'd really like to, So I used to slip and skid and vary the speed and descend into it and turn and drop and climb out or something. As long as you're changing speed, direction, and everything constantly, it made it a tougher target. So it was a challenge.
How does that make you feel when those guys are shooting at you down there?
Well, you get scared. I think you kind of get pumped up on adrenaline. You just want to see if you can get it in and get the load where it's needed and get out without getting hit. You kind of get involved in supporting the operation too. You kind of get to be a part of it.
Kind of a team?
Yeah, I mean these guys. I know if you don't get that in there, they'd be dead in the morning maybe, Yeah. Or they'd be gone. They'd have to bug out.
Any particular stories come to mind that like when you're doing those type of operations that stand out in particular?
Oh, there are lots of them. I know Bob Clark with Continental Air Service and I were dropping on the same spot one day up on Skyline Ridge that runs kind of east and west on the north side of 20 alternate. And we had a position on the east end there. And we were flying around, weaving around through the karst, and then we'd pull up and drop out the left side and do a wing over back down below the ridge, because every time we'd pop up, they'd shoot at us. And they were even lobbing artillery in there on where our loads were hitting, trying to hit us as we came by. And then I looked behind Bob one time. I said, "Bob, there's a big airburst going off right behind you." He said, "Oh, okay." He came around and I was over there and he was watching me, and there was one going, this big airburst going off right behind me, and we called the customer and said, "What's going on up here?" He said, "Oh, we got a 155 lobbing rounds up behind you with a VT fuse, variable time fuse, trying to keep the bad guys' heads down." I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "We got enough problems without that." I said, "The way we're varying our speed and pattern," I said, "the odds are you're going to blow us out of the sky, not the bad guys." So we got that stopped.
A little friendly fire coming out.
Yeah, well, they were trying to help, but it's just being a little bit too enthusiastic about helping, you know.
I understand.
And then there was another time Roger Vickery and I were dropping up south of Site 32, and there was a little cut there between the Plain de Jars and Bon Bon Valley, which led right into North Vietnam. There was a little small valley connecting those two bigger plain open places. And we had some guys right just on the north side of that little small valley there. And we knew we couldn't go to the south because of the bad guys. We knew we couldn't make our pattern to the west because there were a couple of 12-7 out there, 51 caliber. And we couldn't come in from the north because it was downhill too steep. So they said, "It's okay to go out to the east." Okay, so we went out there and it was kind of sparse trees with elephant grass. And boy, we got the stew shot out of us. And the little guy, we were low and slow and very close to the friendly position. And the guy at the position said, "Those effing bad guy coming and shoot at you." So yeah, we know, we know. So we got shot all the way across both wings and down the fuselage, a couple of rounds, and in the tail back there. And back on the vertical stabilizer, there's an inspection plate that comes off, and in the middle of it was a plexiglass little viewing port. And there was a hole right in the middle of that little plexiglass port. And you look through there, and it's nothing but control cables and pulleys and bell cranks. You hit one of those, you got a problem. I don't know how it went through there without hitting anything, but it did. And we got hit in both engine nacelles. And on one side, there's two hydraulic lines that go down the side of the PT6 engine to the gearbox in the front that turn the prop. Well, there's a pressure line where the oil went up, and there's an oil return line. Well, it cut the return line, increased the pressure line, and broke a fitting. So if it had broken the oil pressure line, we were done, because there's no way we're going to get back without flying on one engine without flying across the PDJ, which was, there's no way it's going to fly across there without getting shot down. So we made it back over the hill and landed at 32. When we shut down, the oil ran out of the engine.
Just in time.
Yeah, well, that's, stuff like that happened to a lot of people. Some people got shot down. But that was a close one.
Now, typically the aircraft that y'all were flying didn't have any armament, any guns. Tell me a little bit about that, and tell me what you guys did to kind of compensate for that. I mean, did you carry a kit, your own?
Well, we carried a survival kit, and we were issued an Uzi in a little bag with some extra magazines, and some people had their personal weapons that we weren't supposed to have, but it was dumb not to,
What were yours?
I just had a Browning high-power 9mm. I kept my flight bag with a couple of extra boxes of ammunition, the same ammunition that the Uzi used, so I could use either one with the same ammunition. And then we put a piece of boilerplate under the seat cushion, which probably wouldn't stop a 50 caliber, but it would a 30, you know, a 7.62, the old AK round. And you might throw a flak jacket or two on the floor, you know. But that was it. And then later we got these ballistic helmets that were supposed to stop around a 30 caliber at least. So I don't know. Some guys wore them, I guess, and some didn't.
Did you ever take any hand grenades with you? And I mean, I hear stories of Skippy peanut butter jars and all sorts.
Well, I've heard stories about guys putting hand grenades in peanut butter jars and dropping them out. Pull the pin, and the jar holds the lever down, and then when you throw it out, it hits the ground, the jar breaks and it goes off, you know. I've heard stories of that, but I never did that kind of stuff. I also heard stories about putting detergent in 55-gallon drums of jet fuel and making napalm out of it and tying a thermite grenade to strapping it to the drums and tying a static line to the pin. You throw it out and the thermite grenade sets off the jet fuel and makes a big splash. But we didn't have armed airplanes, you know.
It's kind of tough flying in a war.
Not being able to shoot back. It's very frustrating not being able to shoot back. You're flying around low and slow in an unarmed airplane. The jet guys, you know, they talk about, well, you know, we got all this stuff. And yeah, but you're not down there dropping at 60 or 80 knots at 300 feet either. You know. So we got shot at on the ground with artillery and mortars and whatever, too, you know, with these different sites. I could tell you some stories about some of that, but we also went into the 37s, 57s, 23 millimeter guns. 12.7 was very common. They had some of those that were built especially for shooting for airplanes that were crew served, actually.
Shoots an exploding round?
They had a lot of armor-piercing incendiary, not exploding. You don't really get into exploding until you get up to the 23 millimeter. But these 12.7 APIs come by in the daytime, it's white. At night it looked red, but in the daytime it looked like a white tennis ball coming by. It's burning that white phosphorus out of the back of it. And they were accurate. I mean, they would go a lot higher than 5,000 feet, but we figured the accuracy was about 5,000 feet. One of the things they would do if we were dropping to a position, they had groups around it, say, they would dig a hole into the side of a hill they could shoot out of over the position that they knew we were going to support. And that gave them a field of fire, but they were very hard to even find. And when you find them, you had to actually put a bomb right in the hole to get them out, to knock them out.
Who would put the bomb inside the hole?
Well, the best, most accurate were the T-28s because they were slow enough, and the F-4 guys, they weren't usually that accurate. The A-1s were good. You know, the Sandys were good at it.
Did you get a lot of support from the Sandys?
Yeah.
And the T-28s. I mean, the T-28s were the Royal Air Lao or Royal Lao Air Force.
Air Force, yeah.
Or actually, I guess Vancal's troops. They trained some.
Well,
pilots.
they had a few Muns.
Were they round eye pilots that flew the T-28s?
I heard rumors that some of them were flown by.
Okay, we don't need to talk too much about that.
But there was one guy there, little local guy, called himself Shit Hot, and he was a real cowboy with the thing. I don't know how many times he gotten shot down, but I know he went through 2 one day, and then they wouldn't give him another one. And he finally got killed. He got shot down in an 01. Just doing a forward air controller thing because he ran out of T-28s, and that's how he finally got killed. But
was he ready?
I know I talked to him about 6 months before he got killed, and he'd already done 2,500 missions. Wow. You know, get guys go over there for a year and they do 100 missions. That's a big deal. He'd done 2,500 missions already. probably up to around 3,000 when he got killed.
Wow.
But somebody said one day, said, "How come you stray so low?" He said, "Because if I miss some and they run, I see where they go, I get them next time."